And there were 3 people for South Korea.
There were.
And 2 on Malaysia's team. That's not fair, is it?
3's greater than 2. I would say that South Korea has a
4
distinct...
even.
Oh, a 2-man advantage. They're at least 100% better, right?
Well, that's not fair. How do we allow that?
Not fair at all. Maybe we have, I don't know, some sort of internet communication system? Perhaps with voices?
What is internet? Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, the players will be communicating to each other as always on Team Malaysia. And South Korea very openly just talking to each other there. From watching these events, I find that it looks like the players communicate better when they are together.
Yes.
Just body language makes a huge difference. They can even high-five each other when they do something well, pat each other on the back when they make a mistake, just try and reassure each other that it's all going well.
There have been a couple outlying circumstances where teams that have been together have struggled a little bit, generally when there have been too many cooks in the kitchen, too many great players, and they don't want to really relinquish control. And there have been situations where teams over voice comms have just synergized incredibly well.
Right.
So it looks like we are going to be having the Quest Warrior for Malaysia. So we've already been wrong once today.
Every time. We was wrong with the druid, we were wrong with this.
I just don't know why we make predictions just so we can look silly. Or maybe we just make the predictions next time and assume that it's going to be the opposite. But regardless, it will be Quest Warrior for Malaysia. And then Mage has been in a really good place, but a really strange place for a while now, right? Because all of the decks look very similar, so it's kind of hard to tell them apart. Is it, an aggressive secret mage? Is it a Gunther-style Discover mage? Is it a more straightforward burn mage? They all have a lot of the same pieces.
Right, it looked like Secret Mage was going out of favor until very recently when 4 players brought it to HCT. We saw RDU's hybrid Gunther Mage, which had Doomsayer and Frostnova. It's something we have seen experimented with over the last few weeks. We've seen Freeze Mages with Medivh. Where does the crossover end?
It really doesn't. Every mage is kind of a hybrid mage at this point. It is possible that we're seeing a deck similar to RDU's right now. The Mana Worm indicates Discover variant, and then the Doomsayer indicates that there's Frostnova as well. So Malaysia going to go for the quest on 1 instead of the coined Fiery War Axe, thinking that they can play Fiery War Axe on 2 and it probably won't make much of a difference. Take a couple points of damage, but Hero Power naturally will heal you up from there.
Yeah, that works out. You can then, you expect South Korea, if they've got one, to play a 2-drop, the Arcanologist, and that way the Fiery War Axe, over the next 2 turns, will be able to clear up these minions nicely. If the Fiery War Axe was played on turn 1, maybe South Korea would have held back the Arcanologist, done something different, and played around it. But this way, Revenge also just forces the targets to hit the board.
This just allows Malaysia to curve out much better. You can save the coin for, if you happen to have Curator and you're going into turn 6, you can coin Curator on 6. It's more valuable, and you know that Fire War Axe is slotted for 2 in this case, which means Stonehill 3, Bloodhoof 4, Harrison 5 if you have to. It's curving out well from here.
Safari Works looks like a pretty obvious pick here. I don't know why Malaysia would point out the Stonehill Defender, but they're going to hesitate as well. Don't forget in Hearthstone, even if the play is obvious, and even if all the players agree that it's obvious, playing fast can still be a mistake because it can mean that you're giving the information to your opponent that you only had 1 play to make this turn.
I mean, Fire War Axe looks obvious, but you want your opponent to think that you have options.
Maybe they have another 2-drop. Maybe there's a Dirty Rat they're considering playing to pull out that Doomsayer. Not the Dirty Rat is even in every Quest Warrior at the moment.
It's not.
I think it was it Kalento that wasn't playing it? Yeah, Kalento's not playing Dirty Rat in his HCT list last weekend.
So it's not an automatic pick in the builds anymore. You see a couple copies of Tar Creeper generally, 2 copies of Bloodhoof Brave. Alright, so they are going to take it to the rope, but it is going to be the Fiery War Axe as we suspected.
Okay, now Flurry. The turn is a little bit trickier, and it doesn't look that strong regardless of what he does. I think the obvious play is Ice Block. That's the way that you stick to your curve. That's the way that you just kind of keep the tempo going. Primordial Glyph might be tempting as well to set that up for later, because Ice Block doesn't do anything now. It just enables Medivh's Valet.
It's the mana-efficient play.
Yeah.
And it is an automatic activator for Medivh's Valley because
Right.
it will not be cleared off anytime soon. So
Yeah.
now you may not need to use Medivh's Valley next turn, but you do have that option.
Look at that. Malaysia do have the dirty rat. That could actually mess up the game for Flurry in a variety of different ways. If that rat does hit that Doomsayer, especially after Flurry plays something like a Medivh, it can cause a huge tempo swing, favorable for revenge. Obviously, he has no idea there's a Doomsayer in the hand. I doubt he expects there to be one in the deck.
Dirty Rat is a very difficult card to play against control decks. It can pull out valuable combo pieces. It could pull Medivh, which would mean that Atiesh wouldn't be online, and it can be very valuable that way.
Yeah.
And against aggressive decks, it's an overstated minion that usually pulls out something small. But knowing when to play it is a skill in and of itself.
Another skill is working out which of these taunts to take. None of them are a premium, but Rathion's okay because it allows them to draw a card.
You could pull Primordial Drake and potentially get 2 cards.
That's true. So they're going to have to decide whether they want the body of the Ornery Direhorn plus the Adapt, or just the value of the Rathion, and that's what Revenge is going to take it.
I like the card draw, specifically because Quest Warrior requires a lot of resources to actually get to the point where Sulfuros is active and you can start dealing 8 damage per turn. And if you don't have Acolyte of Pain in hand, if you don't play Battle Rage in your deck, for instance, you can have a very hard time even getting to that point, and then afterwards, often, you just don't have the resources to follow it up.
Right. So Fireball is the best pick here. It's just a shame it doesn't fit into this turn nicely. There's no way of Flurry dealing with Stonehill Defender either. Well, I mean, he can take Fireball and Fireball the Stonehill, but that seems horrible.
You can just Doomsayer on the backswing.
Yeah.
I would say that it's very likely that Quest Warriors have something on turn 4, whether it be a 2-drop, a leftover, Tar Creeper that they didn't get to play on 3, or Bloodhoof Brave, which would be the ideal. So you can disrupt. The big disruption turn, I think, for Quest Warrior is turn 5. That's where most of their power lies in Alley Armor Smith and Direhorn Hatchling.
Well, Malaysia do have the coin in hand, so you could argue that playing Doomsayer now would disrupt an early 5-drop.
But you would like to play Doomsayer down when you can get initiative back, right?
Yeah.
The Warrior doesn't really have that much initiative right now. The board is quite weak, and you don't have anything to follow it up with. You just have a myriad of burn spells at this point. So I can see the value in wanting to save the Doomsayer for when you can develop on the backswing.
That is a very fiery hand, you're right. There's a lot of...
Spicy hand.
Something we point out
damage.
often nowadays when we watch Mage, they seem to have a mix of very cold-looking spells and some very hot ones, and this is a lot of fire. So, Bloodhoof Brave, again, seems to be the obvious play from Malaysia, but that doesn't necessarily make it the right play. Coining out Harrison messes up the curve a little bit too much, I think. There's no other 5-drop, and it might be worth saving that coin for Rathion. Dirty Rat doesn't do much, so I think it is Bloodhoof Brave.
And then South Korea does have the option of playing the Doomsayer once the Bloodhoof Brave is on the board. It's not an automatic clear onto that Doomsayer in this case. But if I'm South Korea, I'm starting to look at every single turn, how much damage do I have in the long run?
Yeah.
How can I close this game out? Because the Taunt Warrior has the Armor Up hero power, but other than that, you may see them playing a couple copies of Armor Smith alongside Alley Armor Smith and 2 copies of Shield Block. But that's the extent of the armor gain, and a lot of it comes in the form of minions or cards that you have to draw. So if you can just burn the warrior out early on in the game, then you deny them the chance of ever having drawn those resources. You win very quickly.
Yeah, and again, Shield Block isn't even one of those cards that's run in every Taunt Warrior deck. I have Kalento's list to hand here, and he wasn't running that. I know he also wasn't running Dirty Rat, so this isn't the same list, but it just goes to show that these aren't cards that are auto-includes. And there's a 5-drop right on cue. Though coining out the Rathion might still be tempting. I'm starting to wonder when Malaysia are going to use the coin.
Well, you need to get rid of this Doomsayer, right? So Whirlwind means that you can actually just kill the Doomsayer with the minions on board. Because the Bloodhoof Brave goes up to a 5/5 in that case, and then you could coin out the Direhorn Hatchling behind it.
Yeah.
Which would be a pretty good board presence for you. Put the Stonehill in the middle, because we're playing around Meteor.
I don't mind that at all. You're even, as you say, you even essentially put a 5/5 onto the board. The Bloodhoof Brave transforms. So, okay, that works
Or
too.
you could just let the Doomsayer activate.
Only gonna hit a Mana Worm, though. That's not what Revenge wanted. He's actually losing more than he's gaining from that. I did.
Whirlwind Execute is still also an option. Or Whirlwind and just leave the Mana Worm up. It's really not that threatening.
Okay, cool. I like this plan a lot. The rat played first, just in case it did pull out a Medivh or something. Just destroy it instantly. The plan failed, so backup plan, destroy the Doomsayer. That worked.
And it did also just have the option of Dirty Rat, Whirlwind. If you need Execute, then you can Execute, like if it were Medivh or Alexstrasza, or second Doomsayer, for instance. But if you don't need Execute, Hero Power, leave the minion up. Could have been a second Arcanologist.
Yeah.
Could have been Medivh's Valet. I like this play a lot.
Okay. So that 2-mana Fireball, it's kind of wasteful, but maybe now is the time to spend it. You can get rid of the Bloodhoof Brave, you can Medivh's Valet, trade into the Dirty Rat. But then you're still sacrificing the Mana Worm, so it doesn't actually matter which target the Fireball hits.
So you would end up with a 2/3 and another 2/3 when you play your Arcanologist on the board in the face of a 1/3. So this is playing to the board quite strongly, but you do need to mitigate this board presence, otherwise you just won't have the time to gather the burn that you need.
This works, just to hold on to that Fireball. Trade in the Mana Worm, it was dying either way.
Dirty Rat doesn't kill either of these minions directly either.
Nope. And that Fireball, I imagine, at this stage, it's being saved for the face.
Going face. You can Firelands Portal on 7. Hopefully you draw into an additional Fireball or Frostbolt that you can use on turn 8 or 9, and then they're hoping to finish the game 10 or 11 with Pyroblast.
It doesn't really matter what minions Revenge puts on the board at this point. Eventually, the burn damage is going to add up in Flurry's hand. It's down to Revenge to draw some of his armor gain. Or, take control of the board quickly and win that way. I guess the Firelands Portal does mean that Flurry is going to be fighting for board control a little bit.
The fact that you are worried so strongly about burn potential, it does kind of make the minions this turn matter, because you can Direhorn Hatchling, coin a hero power, and every 2 points of armor will count, or you can Acolyte hero power. I think that means that Wrathion may not just be automatic for this turn, if you do want to stretch out your armor gain as much as possible.
That's true, and Malaysia will have discussed that, but eventually they decide to go Wrathion. Is it going to be Primordial Drake? No, it's not. One day that'll happen.
It's going to be beautiful. It'll be the first time in a competitive format ever.
All right, well, Firelands Portal looks pretty sweet now to get rid of that Wrathion. Flurry can trade the Arcanologist into the Stonehill Defender for free. And, okay, sure. 4/5. That's about average.
It's better than Bomb Squad.
It is better than Bomb Squad
Doppelgangster.
and Doppelgangster.
Better than Starving Buzzard. We take those stats.
Okay. Malaysia, Bloodhoof Brave, an option this turn. Direhorn Hatchling with the hero power probably better. Everything that Team Malaysia can play this turn is just so passive. They could brawl, but that doesn't really achieve much.
They do also have the option of Direhorn Hatchling, coin into Acolyte. If they want to build their board presence, but also try to draw on the following turn.
They Direhorn Hatchling and Execute?
It just feels like a bit of a waste of an Execute.
Yeah.
But how valuable is your Execute really going to be in this matchup anyway?
Like it can hit a Medivh.
It can hit Alexstrasza, and it hits the Firelands Portal minions. That's about it.
Yeah. We don't know the exact list. It could run anything. Again, it's running Doomsayer Frostnova and Blizzard.
Yeah.
Maybe it's running Antonidas. It's possible. I'd say unlikely. If there's Firelands Portal, it's probably running Medivh rather than Antonidas. And there's a second Firelands Portal, one of the best cards in Mage decks nowadays. Pretty handy to pick up that one too.
Not only making up a significant portion of their burst damage, but also their minion reach.
Yeah, does a little bit of both. But how does South Korea use it this time? Unfortunately, they can't quite fit in the ping, which would be perfect for setting off that Bloodhoof Brave into Firelands Portal range. Does that mean having to trade the 2/2 into it?
Do they have to use it this turn? Depends on if you want to give Malaysia 2 cards off of this Acolyte, because Blizzard would... You could run in the Bruiser to the Bloodhoof Brave, Blizzard, hero power down the Dirty Rat and then, you know, hit base or trade into the Acolyte if you want. That would be the full clear.
Another possibility is fireballing the Bloodhoof Brave, trading the 4/5 into the Dirty Rat. Ah, no, that's no... Oh, no, trading the 2/2 into the Dirty Rat, picking it, and then trading the 4/5 into the Acolyte. That'd be the better way of doing it, but nope. Gonna go with your play, doesn't mind the Acolyte picking up 2 cards.
I think this is just the most value you're going to get off the Blizzard.
I think most importantly as well, it allows South Korea to start pushing more damage without using up their burst potential.
Repetitive minion damage is really, really important for these types of mage decks that we're seeing nowadays. Even though, you know, the mage decks have so much burn, they have so few minions, every point of damage you can get in matters. It's like old school freeze mage when your loot hoarders got in a couple of times and, you know, you just won because of that.
Now, wasn't that an ideal draw for Malaysia there? Sleep with the Fishes perfectly cleaning up the board, allowing them to get their last draw from the Acolyte, and now they could just drop down the Stylehorn, actually.
And they do coin out the hero power. I like this.
Yeah, me too.
I was wondering when they were going to start really
Okay.
maintaining health.
Instant
Talk
Alex
about
Straza.
ideal draws.
Taking up the side of the screen there.
Wow, and now 21 burn in hand for South Korea. Malaysia sitting at 17 health, so they're going to need to find some other way to extend their life total. And the Dirty Rat picked up after the Alex Straza comes down onto the board immediately.
Ah, that's frustrating. Okay. Not going to summon anything now. It could have pulled the Alex Straza, could have preserved a little bit of health for Malaysia. Does
Can't.
complete the quest, though.
Can't play down this Sulfuras, however, because it does forego your armor ups.
Now, there have been a lot of arguments in this matchup. As the warrior, do you keep the quest, do you throw the quest? And for the longest time, a lot of us thought it was correct to throw the quest in the mulligan. But now it seems to be the case that a lot of pro players are saying, actually, it's better to keep the quest because you can just use it for lethal at some point.
I'm very much an advocate for keeping the quest in pretty much every match, I think, except for like Pirate Warrior,
Sure.
if you know it's Pirate Warrior, or Aggro Druid in some cases. Just even in Quest Rogue, I like keeping the quest just because you have no finisher in other ways, and you need it. You need that 8 damage consistently, as you know, whether it be removal or just the burn to get the job done. Your minions only go so far, and they are just a catalyst to getting this quest completed.
Time running out for Revenge CCS. No sudden lethal pickup coming from their side of the board. There's still an ice block in the way, even if there was a lethal. And as you just said, there's just no way they can get above
11.
Above 11, which is exactly how much damage Flurry has.
Discounted Fireball.
Ouch.
Surprise lethal. Never feels good to see that off of Primordial Glyph.
And when was that picked up? At around turn 3, turn 4? I think?
Yeah, that was very early on. But wisely for South Korea, they held on to it all this time. They played into some poorer trades with their minions, knowing that this Fireball would pay off in spades, and it now is going to.
Discounted Fireballs, discounted Frostbolts, both tend to be fairly disgusting from Primordial Glyph. Yeah, South Korea going to do it. Game 1, one step closer to top 8 in the Hearthstone Global Games. Malaysia, one step closer to losing their place entirely.
It was not much that they could do just because they didn't pick up any of that armor gain. No Armor Smith, no Ally Armor Smith, no shield block. They did finally start to coin out armor ups, but at that exact moment,
they even playing around it, but they weren't playing around the discounts from Primordial Glyph.
The Alex Straza was picked up right when South Korea needed it. So that's going to be a decisive win for South Korea with the Mage in game number 1. Game number 2 is going to be Chonger on the Paladin and Handsome Guy on the Druid. A lot of ways this Paladin can shape up. Druid really just has the 2 with Jade Druid and Aggro Druid. Of course, there is
that's Big Druid.
Big Druid.
You gotta acknowledge the Big Druid.
We do. It's like the redheaded stepchild. We acknowledge Big Druid, but we don't really see it all that often. Maybe like Christmas and Easter.
We've seen it in the Hearthstone Global Games once or twice. Back in the first few weeks of broadcast, before Big Druid had even been titled as such. We saw like this deck with Anaconda and a few other things there. But then just after the performances at Seed Story with Big Druid. We did see it, I think, once in the European broadcasts.
I'll give it. It's not half bad.
It's actually fine.
It can do some big work. It's a lot of fun to play. It's a lot of fun to watch. I think Jade Druid is just the more consistent of the Druid archetypes if you're looking for something a little bit more control.
I feel as though every time I see Bright-Eyed Scout played, it draws Innovate.
Yeah.
Almost every time.
Yeah.
I did draw Yogg-saron from it once. That was fun.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I then lost before I got the chance to play
That's
it.
pretty
So
bad.
I had lethal, but yeah.
That's unfortunate. Well, that's the downfall, unfortunately, of that deck a lot of the times, is aggressive decks still just beat it.
Pirate
whereas
Warrior
Jade
can
Druid-
just smack you in the face too many
Yeah,
times.
Jade Druid maybe has a few more tools in the early game to combat early aggression from Pirate Warrior or from Jade Druid or, you know, from an aggressive Murloc Paladin in this case.
Speaking of Jade Druid, and there's the Onyxia that I
Yeah, you
referenced
weren't
earlier.
lying.
Soleil did it. Other people have done it. It's not as common as the Deathwing, but it does make its appearances. And it makes a lot of sense as well. Synergy with the Curator, synergy with Stonehill Defender, synergy with Spikeridge Steed. Not Stonehill Defender, Sunkeeper Tarim. That's the one I was going for there. Wrong
And
card
you know
entirely.
what? By some point there, then also Stonehill Defender, because it gets you Sunkeeper Terror.
Yeah, right, exactly. There you go. That's my logic.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Just needed to connect one more dot there.
Ooh.
All right, so looking like a pretty aggressive version of the Murloc Paladin with the traditional mid to late game package, and then it is going to be good old Jade Druid.
Yeah, that's a pretty good start for the Paladin. Murloc Tidecaller into Grimscale Chum, into Murloc Warleader. Shame the curve doesn't quite work out. If Chonga coins out both 1-drops on turn 1, he can't play the Warleader until turn 3. If he plays 1 on turn 1, he can't play the Warleader and the 2nd on turn 2.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be looking for Hydrologist and Rockpool Hunter here to fill out the curve. Otherwise, he'll just have to go 1 into 3.
Ooh.
Crazed Alchemist is definitely an option.
That's
and South
different.
Korea teching against the wrong deck with the wrong crab.
Isn't that frustrating when you get the wrong one?
Feels crab.
If only it was UK Paladin.
Oh, that would have pirates in it.
Should
I suppose it still could be.
I find it unlikely, especially with Crazed Alchemist as well. A card that we never really see a lot of it, but when we do see it, we just kind of see little bits of it, little flutterings.
It's
Odd to
it's
describe the
quite
card.
good against Doomsayer, quite good against totems in general. So if you're expecting a lot of Bloodlust Shaman or a lot of Mage, Crazed Alchemist is a good tech choice.
So Malaysia kind of taking a risk there. They played the Chum first, hoping it would buff the Tidecaller. Got rewarded, it did go that way around, and now they've got a decent minion to contest the board. If Chonga was able to play a Murloc this turn, then he could just straight trade this Murloc into the crab, but unfortunately, he can't play a Murloc this turn. The only way he can make the trade is if he sacrifices the Murloc by playing Crazed Alchemist, and then making that trade.
That's unfortunate. You'd like to keep this Murloc around. You can also just Hero Power and ignore the Galaka Crawler and hope that South Korea has something they'd rather do this turn than Hero Power.
Which they do. They have the J Blossom, so it looks like that would end up being the play with the most successful result.
Should I?
And Jade Druid don't really have much synergy when they keep their minions alive. But the worst thing that could happen was like an Earthen Scales or something.
Yeah. And that's a very low value Earthen Scale.
Exactly. So the more I think about it, the more I think it does make sense to just Hero Power. There's no urgency to get rid of this crab.
Your Murloc is a bigger threat than the crab. That's what it comes down to.
Exactly.
South Korea will have to kill this Murloc, regardless of whether you trade or not.
And that does allow them to. Now, South Korea may be tempted to play Jade Blossom and innovate out the Hero Power to make the trade. They might decide to save the innovate for a later card draw, but because of how low value their hand is, I think I prefer just using it now. You can just Jade Blossom, get rid of the Murloc, next turn play Jade Spirit, hopefully draw a Nourish at some point.
Or just additional Jade cards as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jade Behemoth would be a great draw too.
Aya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Servant of Kalamos and Firefly.
Something tells me that handsome guy South Korea will
I
not
don't think they would
have
have
put
known.
those cards in the deck yet. Obviously, if those of you have just tuned in from back home, there was an update of Hearthstone last night. The quest rogue nerf went live. It now takes 5 procs to activate the quest, or to complete the quest. And also Jade Spirit and Halazeel have become elementals.
Can't forget about Mana Geode.
And Mana Geodes.
I think there were a couple more in there as well.
Yeah, I think a couple wild cards got the upgrade too.
The elemental treatment.
Yeah. Actually, okay. Not going to innovate there. Just Jade Blossom, get rid of the 1/1. What do you think of that?
I think it's fine. I think it's saving innervate for perhaps you draw Primordial Drake and you need it on turn 6. Maybe you draw Curator and you'd like to play that next turn. If you have Curator in your deck. Not sure how much sense that makes. But I don't think it's bad to hold on to. I think it's fine. You're only at 5 mana. It's not like you're at 8 mana, and innervate's really not valuable anymore.
Okay. Interesting turn for Chonga now, though, because he could play the Murloc Warleader. I'm sure that was plan A. However, Handsome Guy would then be able to trade into the Rock Pool, not the Rock Pool Hunter, the Murloc Tidehunter. Maybe get a decent trade there. I don't mind Stonehill Defender, just as a means of playing kind of a low-value card that protects your Murloc. The Murloc can make a value trade now, and then it's only down to a card like Swipe to clear the board.
And that would be a very low-value swipe.
Yeah, and it might just have to be.
Well, the Primordial Drake was picked up, meaning that will be active for South Korea on turn 6 if they so choose. I still think this is just Jade Spirit turn.
Yeah,
You're still challenging the board really nicely. But if another Murloc does come down, then the Tidecaller will kill off the Golem. Get a 2-for-1 there, essentially.
The thing is, Handsome Guy is still pretty much at full health. So he's not really going to be too worried about a board of aggressive Murlocs just yet. Again, there's only one Murloc. One Warleader wouldn't do much. One Gentle Megasaur wouldn't do much. So the more I think about it, the more I think you're right. Just keep ramping up those Jades. Prepare the better trades for later on.
But looking forward to what Malaysia has towards turns 5 and 6. They have Finja on 5, Spiker Steed on 6, and now Tyrion on 8. And these are all very, very Druid-resistant cards. It'll be tough for the Druid to get through these if they don't already have their own board state built up.
Actually going to use the Swipe. Okay, I am surprised by that. But at first I thought that was maybe the obvious go-to play. But as you said, I think Jade Spirit just made more sense at this point.
I think this is okay. It's South Korea saying that they would rather play Jade Spirit on 4 alongside, a Hero Power or something, knowing that going into turns 5, 6, 7, things can get kind of scary from the Paladin, and they'll need to have something stick. And then potentially follow that up with Primordial Drake.
Wow. Well, this worked out perfectly.
Yes, it did.
Maybe that's the consideration they made. Maybe they were considering the possibility of a Warleader and thought, we can just deal with that with the Drake next turn. Couldn't have imagined that the Grimescale Charm
so well
would also fit into that. A little bit of destruction, and now things are looking very good for the Jade Druid. It's only Tyrion that's going to be trying to put a stop to the Druid's plans at this point. Aya now picked up.
Ooh, that's a great draw for South Korea.
3-3, 4-4, 5-5 when the Jade Spirit gets played.
They haven't picked up any card draw, but in their last 3 draws, they've had Primordial Drake and Aya.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's pretty good.
Who needs card draw if you're South Korea right now?
Who needs card draw if you're already drawing your best cards?
They've got Earthen Scales, so if they do draw an Auctioneer, they can at least get that started. Nourish still fantastic.
No reasonable way that Malaysia gets through the Primordial Drake this turn unless they have an equality, in which case the Finja would die as well. So Handsome Guy feeling no pressure to Earthen Scales or anything like that this turn.
Well, there's Gentle Megasaur. Gentle Megasaur into Poisonous would do the trick. Is that worth it, though? It might. I think it just has to be. Poisonous is not present.
Probably +1/+1.
I think it's the only one that's even a little bit viable.
I mean, it's already stealthed, and you don't really care about Liquid Membrane after you already get value from the Finja.
Yeah, Finja's going to die when it trades in this game, I'm pretty certain, so...
And as the Innkeeper tells us, a minion with stealth that also has taunt still can't be attacked.
Oh, that's how it works. Okay.
Something like that. He puts it more eloquently.
Crazed Alchemist just being held onto there. Oh! Okay. Trying to set up a Finger trade there. Next turn now, Spike Ridge Steed can be played onto the Finger. Finger can trade in, potentially stick around for more value. But look!
You're also just letting your opponent have 16 damage on board, and you're at 23. That's scary.
And you said before, all South Korea need to do is, they don't need card draw, they just need Jade cards. And look at this. Aya and Jade Behemoth have both been picked up since you said that.
This is a lot of damage.
Do you... So how much of this does Handsome go trade? I imagine... So the Primordial Drake goes face. I think everything else trades, though. Yeah.
And you get a 9.
Could have played Earthen Scales there, actually.
Hero Power versus Earthen Scale
Maybe it's just not worth it.
accomplishes pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
You can always Hero Power and Earthen Scales next turn.
I was just thinking while the 8-4 is still alive.
Yeah.
However, the Jade Golems are going to be that big soon anyway. Spike Ridge Steed will allow Chonga to trade into the Primordial Drake now. I don't know what Murlocs he's hoping to get from this. War Leader will help.
Actually, 2 pretty reasonable Murlocs.
Yeah.
Still not going to be enough, though.
Yeah,
Looks like it's going to be 6-7 damage potential for Handsome Guy on this following turn.
Yep, 7 with the Earthen Scales as well, you're right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's pretty dead draw.
Okay, now South Korea needs some card draw. Now an Auctioneer would be great. Now a Nourish would be great. I mean, Nourish or Auctioneer would probably both be game-winning cards at this point. Unfortunately, he has to just make as many of these trades as possible, and Tyrion coming down next turn could put up a little bit of a barrier.
So the 4-4 can go into the Finja. And then you can Hero Power down. Plus 5-5, this works as well. You just save your 4-4 this way and get rid of the 3-1. Take a little bit more damage, but it doesn't matter because you're armoring up anyway. I think the War Leader's definitely slotted to die. But the pull of pushing 7 to face is quite strong too.
Yeah, as tempting as that was, just putting Malaysia so low, as the Jade Druid, I feel as though it's not really necessary. If you can make these efficient trades, because of this board, how strong this board is, if Tyrion comes down, Handsome Guy's sort of just like, so what? Just maybe Hero Power into it, trade the 6-4 into it, and then just carry on smashing the face. Maybe Chonga has to play Stonehill Defender and get 2 taunts instead. Don't think that ends up being any better though.
Because you're still dead if you play Tyrion and they Hero Power. That's going to be lethal. So you do need to find 2 taunts here.
Wreck a Flame, okay, that'll protect them. Slightly. Yeah, it will because of the health gain on Wicker Flame. Only just though.
Yeah, because they would have 15, so Wicker Flame puts them 3 out of range.
So Hero Power takes down the Divine Shield. Jade Spirit trades into Wicker Flame. I guess the 4-1 goes into the Stonehill Defender, and then everything else, at this point, everything's going face.
Yeah.
I think. There's no reason to trade into these tiny little things, unless you do want to play around a second Gentle Megasaur. Maybe you play around Tarem, but I don't think it's worth it. You know that both War Leaders are gone. Okay, Handsome Guy gonna play it extra safe. I guess there's just no reason not to. How do they not win next turn? Is there anything Chonga could have?
If Sunkeeper Tarim, excuse me, comes out, that leaves. No, you're still dead because Hero Power. So yeah,
there we
nothing
go.
that Malaysia can do there. South Korea gonna pick up their second game win with the Druid.
Are we about to have another sweep today?
I mean, it's very possible. South Korea just needs to win one more game, and they are already through to the quarterfinals of Phase 3.
And more importantly, you'd be one up on predictions.
I would
between
be.
the 2 of us
I would
today,
be one up, but
which is not good. So I kind of need Malaysia to come back now. Kind of need that to happen.
We've said that in both of our previous series. If you haven't been watching previous Today we had 2 3-0 victories, China and Czech Republic over Greece and Belgium. Very fast matches. And we'd gotten to this point in both of those matches and said, okay, well, backs to the wall. Malaysia, Greece, Belgium need to get a lot of work done here. They need to win 3 in a row to be able to take this series.
Maybe Gilgamesh can put a stop to
Gilgamesh
South Korea.
can do it.
It's going to be him on the shaman versus Dione on the warrior. Earlier today, we did see a token shaman versus a pirate warrior. And the pirate warrior, I believe, won that one, unless my notes are just completely the opposite to what they should be, which is quite possible today. Quickly trying to find out there. Should have
the warrior.
Yeah, the warrior did one. Okay. That time I got it right.
You got to have them efficient notes with the check marks, and it's very easy.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can learn a thing or two about that.
Technology and can't value old pen and paper.
Right, Gilgamesh on the left, getting ready with. Is that? I guess that's a Mega Zero, is it? I don't believe we've seen these guys before, so I think it must be versus Dione and team on South Korea's side. Getting ready to go.
I mean, there's a lot riding on this for both of these teams. Their tournament lives literally riding on this series. And South Korea being up 2-0 means that Malaysia needs to start their reverse sweep with this shaman. We've seen a lot of reverse sweeps, actually, throughout the Hearthstone Global Games. And personally, I always like the 3-0s and the 3-2s. I like them when they're really fast or they're really close. 3-1s just sort of leave you feeling a little unsatisfied. You're like, really? Oh, one team tried, but still didn't happen.
3-1s.
I like them when they're close.
3-1s leave you less satisfied. Well, hang on a second. What is going on here?
You know what?
They knew.
I'm not going to begin to speculate until I get a bigger picture. But so far, I'm seeing elementals and I'm seeing jades.
Okay,
and that's what I'm seeing.
Okay. To be fair, forget that the buff on Jade Spirit happened at all.
Just not used to that little tag.
This is Jade. This is Jade Shaman anyway, right?
Yeah.
This is the same. It could just be the same build.
It could just be standard Jade Elemental Shaman that we've been seeing, except now Servant of Calamos can pull Jade Spirit.
Yeah. I doubt that we'll even see Servant of Calamos in this deck, honestly. This is probably just Spirit Echo. Jade. Yeah, Spirit Echo.
Yeah, could be.
Spirit Echo, Jade Shaman. Unless they did know, in which case, sure, it would have Calamos.
I mean, back in the beginning of the Journey to Ungoro meta, we did see Jade Elemental synergy, but yeah, it's just going to be Spirit Echo Control Shaman build.
Just had a slight heart attack there. How did they know? No, they didn't. It's fine.
Geniuses.
It's fine. There's probably not going to be any elemental synergy in this deck. Hot Spring Guardian is just a good defensive card for the Shaman. And Jade Shamans run that just, to defend themselves.
And Jade Spirit just now happens to be an elemental as well. So this may very well be the longest game of any series we've had thus far. It's finally a control mirror.
This game may be as long as the first 2 series today.
That's definitely possible. I've seen it before, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it again. I mean, the Taunt Warrior does have a point where it reaches critical mass, right? Where they finish the quest, and then there is a clock on the opponent, simply because of the 8 damage output every single turn. It can act as either a removal or just an 8 damage burst. And so once you get to that point, the Warrior does put the Shaman on the clock, but Shaman is fantastic at building up wide board states that can neutralize that hero power.
It kind of comes down to how the Warrior chooses to play the deck. If the Warrior can save the removal, save their board clears for the hero power at the end and just get lethal with it, that's one way they can win quickly. But yeah, South Korea probably regretting that dirty add-on too.
Dione not too happy about that one. You can see with the thing from below coming out. My guess would be that South Korea is expecting this to be a Bloodlust token shaman, and the fact that it's going to be a bit of a heavier build, running Jades and running Spirit Echoes, may catch them a little bit by surprise.
Funny thing is that even if it was a Bloodlust shaman, it still could have put it below. But the Hot Spring Guardian should give a clearer picture of what South Korea are playing against. And that is a strong start for Malaysia. The fact that they were able to drop that Hot Spring Guardian, heal up the thing from below. South Korea don't have a way of dealing with either of those minions this turn.
Okay, so this deck from Malaysia can be a serious control killer. Jades, because they have the ability to ramp so out of control and they continue to generate, can be very, very good against Taunt Warrior. Obviously, Jade Druid is a great counter to Taunt Warrior, and Jade Shaman with Spirit Echo can perform very much the same task, right? So the big question here is, can Malaysia get a well-timed Spirit Echo onto Jades, onto high-value minions like Thing from Below, and then can they have enough resources going forward to win the game even through the quest completion from South Korea?
That is one of the downsides of Thing from Below being pulled out already. It's going to limit Malaysia's opportunities with the Spirit Echo. Ideally, you get both Thing from Belows with the Spirit Echo and play them both for free again later. But now, Gilgamesh, he's been offered another one. If he could somehow get that down and then Spirit Echo, that would be ideal.
Thing from Below is actually one of the ideal targets for Spirit Echo because you can hero power in the early stages, you don't have that much early game, and then if you can, like you said, put down 2 free Thing from Belows, Spirit Echo, and get 2 more free Thing from Belows from it, if your opponent brawls, you can reload that much easier on the next turn and
take that,
put
Rogue.
much pressure on.
I know how to 5-5 for free.
Ha!
You can't 5-5 anymore.
Now you need to play 5 minions to get 5 5s. Doesn't that just make more sense?
Right.
South Korea still having some trouble with Thing from Belows this game.
Yeah, just gonna stick up Bloodhoof Brave in the way, it makes sense, but now that Spirit Echo actually might even go off this turn. That would hit some decent targets. Get an extra Discover from the Stonehill Defender, get 1 Thing from Below. How greedy do you think Malaysia are gonna take this?
I think this is a nice Spirit Echo.
Yeah, I agree.
You can net an additional minion from Stonehill. 3 health is nothing to joke about. And you can get that totem because you won't overdraw. That is also something that you need to be aware of.
Yep.
Because Spirit Echo, if all of these minions were to die from a brawl in the same turn, you don't want your hand to be so full of totems, for instance, of things that you can't actually make use of.
Perfectly traded as well, ended up with the Stonehill Defender back in hand. That's going to generate another taunt later. Gilgamesh probably hoping that that is another Thing from Below. If he picks up his second Spirit Echo soon, then that could pick up value almost immediately. Although, you don't get 2 copies of a card if you play 2 Spirit Echoes. If a second Spirit Echoes was played on this board, Malaysia would only get 1 copy of each card when it dies.
Yeah.
You don't... I've failed with that before. I learned that one the hard way.
It's a bit counterintuitive, right? Because you would think that they would stack. Certain other death rattles do stack.
It's because it doesn't create a copy of the card, it just puts the card back in your hand. You can't put the same card in your hand twice, like tear it in half.
It doesn't say put a copy of this card into your hand. It's death rattle, put this card into your hand.
Yeah. Mana Tide Totem is an odd one in this matchup because one of the ways that this game can end is actually fatigue, funnily enough. We can get there. Mana Tide Totem does take Malaysia there faster, something that they may want to consider avoiding. Their hand is also looking very big at the moment. I like this. That Thing from Below is just never going to die.
No, been on the board since turn 2, getting really effective trades this entire time. It's now been healed by both the Hot Spring Guardian and the Jinyu Water Speaker.
Diony's still in a position where he can't do anything about this. He'd love a brawl. And even that would only clear the board once and then force him to have to clear the board again soon. Double Primordial Drake is okay, but a few too many of these minions have more than 2 health. Thing from Below and Jinyu.
I may have been tempted to go for Primordial Drakes over a couple of turns and try to clear this board with the body and the effect.
Oh, I guess Fiery War Axe could hit Thing from Below to set it up. Or even just hold it this turn and then do it next turn to play around a healing totem.
I think that's very smart. I think if you're hitting this turn, you're going into the Hot Spring Guardian, maybe to telegraph that you don't have a dragon.
Sure. But this pretty much does give the game away. Another Stonehill Defender picked up. So much value oozing from the Shaman deck.
Not running out of minions anytime soon. That's definitely another thing that the Shaman can struggle with. You have a lot of reactive spells, and sometimes you just don't draw into your minion resources. Instead, you have hands full of lightning storms, volcanoes and devolves, hexes.
So what is the play this turn then? Double Stonehill Defender. Filling up the hand again though. There is the chance that while these death rattles are still on the board that puts the cards back into Malaysia's hand, there is a chance that he could accidentally start milling them or milling cards from his deck if he doesn't play this carefully. That's why Gilgamesh is going to be reluctant to generate more cards.
But at the same time, you don't want to add much more to the board because you are so weak to Brawl.
Yeah.
I think if you haven't seen a Brawl at this point, it's
Yeah.
likely that your opponent doesn't have one. But it's looking like they're just
At
thinking
that.
about throwing away one of these useless AoE spells.
I imagine this is the point where Malaysia are regretting playing the totem before they played the Spirit Echoes.
Yeah, I mean, how much value are you really going to get from a Stone Claw Totem? All it does is clog your hand. I really liked when Malaysia played the Spirit Echo, but this is another little pitfall sometimes that people get into with the card.
All right. I wondered when the Brawl was picked up there if that would end up being the pick for this turn, but nope. Dione going to stick to plan A, play the Primordial Drake, trade into the thing from below. Gilgamesh relieved he's not milling anything. Jade Lightning. Oh, it allows Malaysia to clear the board.
You can play a thing from below alongside it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hero Power doesn't really achieve anything. Well, it reduces the thing from below's in hand, but it also prevents Gilgamesh from playing one this turn. Then again, maybe he does want to hold on to these for the second Spirit Echo. But can you hold on to them forever? There's still 19 cards left in the deck.
I think you'd rather just have the 5/5 body on board
Yeah.
to contest any number of the 6 health minions that are in the build from South Korea.
Oh, that's one way of playing a totem.
Yep.
Of course.
And this way you do get 3 cards out of your hand.
Yeah. Ah, it was worth it after all. The Taunt Totem Spirit Echo. Dione going to be a little bit more careful about this Dirty Rat, though we're at the stage in the game really where he will be able to afford to play it whenever he wants. I imagine it will come right before a Brawl.
He'll be able to deal with anything that it pulls
Yeah.
at this point. Whereas maybe earlier in the game it was a little bit risky, but when you strongly assume your opponent is playing Bloodlust tokens, Dirty Rat lines up a lot better in the early game with those minions.
Gotta say though, Malaysia's first turn was just Hero Power. Maybe that should have been a nod in the direction of Token Shaman. South Korea just so convinced that it would be Token Shaman, they just ignored it.
It's kind of a bit of a giveaway that your opponent doesn't have a 1 or a 2 drop.
Well, yeah.
All right, making the best use of Volcano. Shaman spells not too good against what the warrior has to offer to the board. You will see a Hex maybe come out on a Direhorn Hatchling just to deny the Matriarch, but Volcano is as good here as any other removal spell.
And you know, that Mana Tide Totem looks like it's lined up perfectly. Unless South Korea want to rat and brawl, they're not going to be dealing with it this turn. Okay, I guess they could Ravage and Ghoul execute, but then do they want to execute the Mana Tide Totem or do they want to execute the thing from below? Like, what's the actual threat here? They only have 14 health left.
Both are very threatening. 5/5 is a direct threat, but the Mana Tide Totem is a long-term threat.
Rat Brawl could also backfire if this rat pulls out the Aya. Then,
Oh, that would just be
Maybe. No.
a sticky
But
situation.
Dione does know there's a Stonehill Defender in Malaysia's hand, as long as he's keeping track of the Spirit Echo cards. So he knows there is a chance if he rats that he pulls that out and denies that value. He's actually going to go with Ravaging Ghoul Execute, it looks like, but which target?
So many choices.
Okay. I have to admit I prefer this.
I do too. The ghoul can finish off the Mana Tide Totem next turn.
Yeah.
Killed.
It's a little bit scary, as you said. Mana Tide Totem is a long-term threat, but as Dione only has 14, well now 16 health left, I think clearing the damage was important. So, Malaysia have seen both Primordial Drakes. I guess that doesn't make a huge difference to this play. I'm just wondering if Aya plus Jade Claws is worth considering. Just make the biggest board possible. Oh, that worked out.
That worked out quite well. 2 mana 1/1.
Well, now, yeah, Stonehill Defender seems fine. Maybe even play both, or maybe just one and Jade Claws.
Out of my jungle.
They replace themselves in the hand, but you're not worried about your hand size right now. It's still definitely low enough, even with the mana tide on board.
More things from below. Yep, don't mind if I do, says Team Malaysia. So that's the second one that's been discovered this game.
One pulled from the Dirty Rat, 2 discovered, 1 played naturally,
Yeah.
4 thing from below.
And the potential of another one from that
Yeah.
Stonehill Defender. And more if Jade Spirit gets picked up soon. Not Jade Spirit, Spirit Echo. Spirits and echoes and things. This could be a good time to rat brawl though for South Korea. If they can rat out Jade Spirit or Stonehill Defender, then that would be pretty huge.
Even ratting out Aya, if it dies, only leaves a 3/3.
Okay, that's fine.
They were all okay targets.
I like what Malaysia did there, though. They made the biggest board possible. They've acknowledged that South Korea's health is low. They actually might win this game soon.
Alright, well there's 7 of 7 taunt minions played for Dayuni in South Korea.
Yeah, I think we're just going for it now. I think next turn is just going to have to be Sulfurous and go. The Shaman is going to win this game soon if South Korea are not careful.
It's the one resource they have left.
Public Defender, oh boy. So, Aya plus Stonehill Defender fits the curve very nicely this turn. Malaysia can just trade away the Stonehill Defender with the weapon and the minion. Drop an even bigger Jade down. Grab another thing from below, probably from the Stonehill Defender.
Yeah, with the trend we've been seeing, I would hope so.
Or Jade Spirit plus Stonehill Defender, that works fine too.
Yeah, class minions are obviously boosted rate from Discover effects. I think it's something like 400%. So you want to play Sulfurous and Hero Power on the same turn, which means that Curator isn't likely to come out on this turn.
So,
many choices.
is it just Armor Up Sulfurous, Hero Power, Public Defender? That seems weak.
It does.
Everything seems weak.
Is Public Defender a hired gun?
So, this is tricky. Do you Hero Power first, and then kill whichever of the taunts doesn't die? Or do you hit into the taunt totem first?
I gotta move.
I think I would hit into the Taunt Totem first.
Yeah.
And then you have a 3 out of 4 to kill any of the other minions, taking power off the board.
The only downside to this is that it's slightly more likely to hit the face now.
Yeah.
It didn't though, it hit the Aya. Maybe that's the worst target other than the face. As there's still almost as much power on the board as there was before. Wait, another thing from below? Okay, sure.
Okay, well one of them was Spirit Echoes. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where
That's right.
the second one came from.
So 1 from Spirit Echo, 2 from Stonehill Defender.
The one that the rat pulled that was then echoed, and 2 from Stonehill Defender. And this is the second natural copy of Thing from Below in the deck, so this is the 5th one?
Yeah, and then there's probably one about to pop up right now. No!
I'll be damned.
Ruined the streak.
How could he?
Having to take Lord of the Arena as well over Primordial Drake, just because it fits the curve this turn. Gilgamesh is just going for as big a board as he can possibly muster right now. I imagine Thing from Below comes down too, unless he's particularly afraid of another brawl. Okay, does this set up lethal without the Thing from Below then? Yeah, it does, just.
The menagerie is for guests only.
Yeah. It was actually exactly 16 damage. So even if the hero power was to hit the 1/4, then it wouldn't have been lethal. But the Curator blocking the path does slow Gilgamesh down slightly.
Let's see what this can get.
Oh dear.
That's the weakest target. You'd like to take a lot more power off the board.
Harrison picked up from Malaysia now that Sulfuras is gone. Pretty unfortunate timing.
Both of these Harrisons sitting dead in hand for these teams.
Nothing
South-
belongs in a museum today.
Not today. South Korea has the continuous engine of 8 damage per turn, but Gilgamesh has more useful resources right now. So one additional board clear from Dione could be very, very useful.
There's still a Brawl somewhere in the deck, as long as he's running 2, which I'm pretty sure all Taunt Warriors are at the moment.
I think that's probably the standard build.
He needs it pretty urgently, though. And I think we're getting to the point where he needs to, like, Acolyte Brawl, and he needs the Acolyte to win. I guess if the 3/3 was to win a Brawl, it wouldn't be the end of the world for him either. All right, Brawl or bust. That's a bust.
Is there any way that they can survive? Ghoul takes down the 6/1. Direhorn Hatchling can come down, and you can hero power away something.
Okay. Okay, yeah, the Direhorn Hatchling does sort
You
of.
take 6 off. The Hatchling requires at least Thing from Below plus a Maelstrom Portal, and then you need the hero power to hit one of the 3 minions left on the board.
Yeah. All right.
And if that's the case, then you survive.
South Korea going down, but going down swinging.
They're making it interesting, that's for sure.
Is Dione considering playing Acolyte of Pain with the Ravaging Ghoul? There are so many risky plays being made today. All day we've seen them.
What are you looking for from the Acolyte of Pain? Sleep with the Fishes?
Yeah.
You got 2 in the build.
One
That's
week.
a 1 in 5.
1 week we saw it happen. We saw Acolyte into Ravaging Ghoul pick up Sleep with the Fishes, and the player won the game because of it.
1 in 5. Will they get it?
No,
No.
not this time.
That's not going to do it. And it hits the face. All right, so Malaysia taking their first game of the series, making this our first series of the day that is not a 3-0 sweep.
Ending what was becoming quite an unfortunate sequence of events. Well, for the losing side,
Yeah.
but now my pick for this match, Malaysia, back in it.
In it.
I'm feeling good about this. Cora, you said you don't like 3-1s much, so you're going to want Malaysia to win this next game too.
Absolutely. I want to see ultimately all of these teams succeed. Unfortunately,
Well, that can't happen.
That can't happen. One of these teams will be out of the tournament today, but I do like getting to see what they have to prove. You know, what can they do in this Hearthstone battlefield? So I've been seeing Malaysia several times throughout the course of this tournament, throughout stage 1 mostly. I've seen them play. I'm proud that they've gotten all the way here. So I'm very glad that they were able to get at least 1 win in this phase.
It was a nice try, Cora, but not everyone can win. It's actually a pretty
Can we
bad day
just
for that.
Give, balloons to like everybody and invites to stage 4.
You know, I always surprise the other
We don't have that in the
casters.
budget.
I always surprise the other casters from the UK because they always expect me to be really nice and really upset when players are kicked out. But
Cutthroat.
secretly, I love this part of the tournament. I love seeing them get kicked out because it's
High
just so
stakes
exciting.
Hearthstone.
Exactly. Next up, it's going to be Lala Song on the Druid versus Kranich on the Priest. We've
Okay.
seen one Silence Priest today, I believe,
We have.
from Czech Republic, and they ran Mana Geode in their deck. Also now an Elemental.
Czech Republic, they do what they do, and it worked wonders for them. If this is a Silence Priest from South Korea and a Jade Druid from Malaysia, then South Korea will be enormously favored here.
But I'm not expecting Silence Priest because apart from Czech Republic today, we've not seen Silence Priest at all much recently in any tournament or on the ladder even. I don't see it
True.
anymore. So I would expect a more regular, maybe Miracle Priest from Kranich.
Dragon Priest also still a
Yeah.
viable option.
Yeah. Oh,
Ha 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 ha.
hang on a second. That's a Dirty Rat.
And a Circle of Healing.
Hmm.
And a divine spirit.
I mean, we'll find out as this game goes on. Lala
Safe to say, we've got Jade Druid.
Yeah, which is typically favored against priests that aren't silence priests.
But silence priests and dragon priests, actually, dragon priests can give Jade Druid a run for their money just because it's a very mid-range oriented deck that runs a lot of larger mid-range minions that synergize well with each other. Druid has a very difficult time dealing with that, and Druid has a tough time removing a single large minion off of the board, which is why silence priest is so strong.
I believe that the priest that we saw in HCT was a combo priest with one Light Warden. I don't think it won a game.
I remember the Light Warden priest. It was very odd.
It's very odd. Well, Kalento hit rank 1 legend with his Light Warden
Yeah.
priest a couple of weeks ago. It was actually while I was traveling to the Hearthstone Global Games, so I totally missed it. It was a blind spot. And a few players were playing it that week, and I was just very, very confused at the time. But since then, people have been experimenting with it, and yeah,
It's picked up some support. It definitely has.
one Light Warden does seem to do the trick sometimes.
This is a fantastic start for Malaysia, though. No way to deny that. You have all the ramp that you need, and you have cards to ramp into right now, which is what our last Jade Druid match lacked.
It harkens back to the combo Druid days where you'd coin Wild Growth into Shade of Naxxramas if you could, but you'd never coin Wild Growth if you couldn't do that. This, to me, looks like a perfect time to coin Wild Growth.
Coin Wild Growth into Jade Blossom, into Fandral, into Jade Behemoth. Maybe even you end up being able to save the second Wild Growth for card draw later.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like a pretty decent curve to me. I wonder what Malaysia are thinking about, though.
I mean, we're still not entirely sure on what South Korea is playing.
Time waits for no one.
Is it ever better to not coin Wild Growth and just wait in the Wild Growth next turn? I can't really see
You
why.
could
It
just
would
always coin Jade Blossom on 2 into Fandral on 3.
want to save both Wild Growths.
Either way, you get to Fandral on 3.
Yeah. Okay. I am surprised and slightly confused to see that play, but we'll
Okay,
see
with
how-
Silence coming into hand for South Korea, I can't help but think that maybe this is Silence. This is a priest. Could be Silence Priest.
So it's just Silence Priest with Dirty Rat and Circle of Healing. Okay.
I mean,
sure.
think about it. Dirty Rat has 6 health, so it is a fine target for Divine Spirit Interfire.
yep.
And your main draw engine is Northshire Cleric, so you have Wild Pyromancer Circle. If you have a couple minions on the board, you're going to draw more.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. And yeah, Circle of Healing, exactly.
Just a couple of interesting...
If there was a Circle of Healing in this hand now for
It would be
Punish,
fantastic.
yeah, it'd be great. You just draw the rest of your deck. And one of the areas in which Silence Priest can struggle is running out of resources. The almost miracle combo-esque-ness of the Pyromancer and the Cleric and the Circle can fix that. Or it can make things worse.
Yeah.
If Kranich ends up top-decking and just gets a Circle of Healing with nothing to play it on. Did you see Lala's song just clapping really aggressively then?
That was either an aggressive celebratory clap or it was an aggressive angry clap.
Aggressive. Radiant Elemental on
Yeah.
turn 2. Clap, clap.
I don't know if that was a happy clap or a sad clap. I'm leaning towards sad clap. But you know what? It's nice to cheer on other teams.
Yeah. Kranich can now play a second Radiant Elemental just to make it worse. Though,
Get some more cheers. A little screaming this
he's
time.
actually doing it. I thought maybe he'd save it. Okay. Just waiting to pick up Lyra on turn 5 and go.
You haven't seen Wrath. That probably means there's no Wrath.
Meanwhile, Lala's song, right, let's see. If he coined out Wild Growth... Wait. He's played such a weird sequence of cards here.
He held coin on 1, growthed on 2, and held coin still. And now it's his turn 3.
Okay.
So he's been very greedy with the ramp card.
Whereas if he coined out Wild Growth on 1, he'd have played Blossom on 2. He'd have had a Jade Golem on the board already, and he'd be at 5 mana, which means he'd be able to nourish. I
or
don't
coin
even...
behemoth.
Or coin behemoth. No, he'd have coined out wild growth on one.
Oh, yes. Of course.
Would that have been better? It's hard to tell.
That's a close call.
Maybe holding onto the coin on turn 1 was fine.
Behold the rage of the fireland.
Alright, just putting Foundry down as a body, saying, hey Kranich, if you're willing to put your cards on the board that you'd rather not die, I'll do the same to mine, and they'll kill each other.
You'd rather not die. Well, Dirty Rat here would pull a Jade Behemoth, guaranteed.
Does Kranich want to pull a Dione and do that?
Ooh.
It's not turn 2, I guess.
It isn't. It's definitely not going to be Thing from Below, but it may be another 6-mana taunt minion.
Is Kranich going to have to trade both of these Radiant Elementals into Fandral?
You could just silence it.
Yeah.
Or you could trade into it and just heal off the Cleric.
That's a good way to start the turn, at least.
I must consider.
It doesn't quite fit. Silencing it's fine, but it still allows the Fandral to make the trades. But then if you don't silence it and you go face, then Nourish just wins. So yeah, the silence.
Get very punished there.
Silence seems right, and Kranich playing a very aggressive game of Hearthstone here.
He doesn't have any of the combo pieces, any of the real resources that he needs to be able to pull together a flashy one-turn win, so he's got to put some damage together over the long run. This is the way he's going to do it.
Meanwhile, yogg-saron
Meanwhile,
exists
Yogg.
in Lala Song's hand. It's still very much part of Hearthstone.
What is it at the Fortress of Solitude? Yogg-saron.
I wonder if it will fit into the upcoming Jade Elemental Druid decks that we're going to have
Who
around.
even knows? Tough to speculate. The Americas region hasn't woken up yet to find these gifts we've been given overnight. It's like Santa Claus came and made Jade Spirit an elemental.
Right. So coin out Behemoth seems okay. It's a shame that the Jade Golems are still only 1/1s.
Time waits for no one.
But that's still fine. You still put a 3/6 with Taunt on the board, and the next turn you play another one. This blocks all of the damage that's on the board immediately. That's got to take out a Radiant Elemental, right? No, actually thinks the Pyromancer is more of a threat.
Interesting.
If there were
Wow.
any spells in South Korea.
That
Imagine
would
if
be
there was a Shadow Visions,
disgusting.
right? Shadow Visions into Powered Shield, then you
Even
play
still,
that.
just the silence that was used last turn.
Yeah.
I think the silence was absolutely necessary there. Just bit of a bummer not having any other spell in hand.
Those Radiant Elementals are going to be dealt with next turn as well by the looks of things.
Well, you can draw for 1.
Oh, next draw as well. How
That's
frustrating.
unfortunate.
Kranich could try and keep one of the Radiant Elementals alive by buffing that with the Powered Shield and then using Kabal Talon Priest on it as well. Or you're buffing one and using the Kabal Talon Priest on the other.
Try to spread out the stats a little bit. I don't mind that.
I must consider.
Alternatively, he could try putting down Dirty Rat, using that as a taunt to protect the minions. No, he's going to just buff up that Cleric more and more. There's in a fire!
You wish to
Okay. All right. That worked out perfectly.
That was a lot better of a turn than it was looking like
Yeah,
initially.
wasn't it?
It looked like there really wasn't much that Kranich could do, but
Look at Kranich's laughter right now.
he wisely took that turn in steps, right? He healed the Cleric first. Then he figured out what he was going to do with the Power Word Shield, and finally the turn came together with the
Yeah.
Inner Fire.
Radiant Elementals doing their job as well, discounting the Powered Shield, discounting the Inner Fire, and now leading to this. Kranich, yeah, okay, he traded one of the Radiant Elementals into Fandral, just trying to keep this Northshire Cleric alive now with everything he's got. But suddenly, this game looks like it's turned around a little bit, and if Kranich starts picking up spells soon, then Atlayo could still go out of control. Especially if this Radiant Elemental sticks around. We're going to see that Yogg ratted out, aren't we? I can see it happening.
Haven't seen that in a while.
Time waits for no one.
Not quite like a Cthulhu getting ratted out, I guess.
No, that's heartbreaking. But to see that, you would actually have to
Like
play Cthulhu.
Yeah.
And even the Cthulhu Warrior we saw in the Hearthstone Global Games recently was a Cthulhu Warrior-less Cthulhu Warrior.
Yeah. It's just Cthulhu's friends and warrior.
Cthulhu's Warriors. All right, so forgoing the Lyra this turn,
It's
heal up
greedy.
the Cleric a little bit more.
It's greedy, but I like it. Ah.
Cleric's an absolute beater. This is how you're going to win the game, right? You put all of your eggs into the Cleric basket, and now you just need to hit face twice.
That's a Shadowwood Pain in this deck. It's not like straight up Silence Priest as we've
No, it's
as
not.
we've always known it. Using up Shadow Visions feels a little bit awkward when you've got Lyra in hand, so goes for another one.
Shadow or Death as well.
Yeah, I think we end up going for another Shadow Visions here, and then we just save that one for Lyra. I wonder what he was looking for. Divine Spirit, I guess. Buff up that Cleric a little bit more. Druids don't have any way of hard removing it, so...
Mulch is out of the format. They don't play Naturalize.
Lotus! Oh, Lala Song, he is gone. He is
I mean,
out of there.
that was where Malaysia could have won this game. It needed to be a Yogg on 10, and it needed to do some crazy things. But the 1 and 3 pulls the Yogg, shuts down any chance that Malaysia has of killing off this Northshire Cleric. That looks like that might just be it.
Malaysia's got a little bit of time left. They can play Feral Rage, gain some armor. They can play Jade Behemoth to put up a big taunt that looks like it will block the Northshire Cleric.
Oh, we saw Shadow Word Pain from the Shadow.
Well, yeah, so Lala Song would need to do both, right?
Yeah.
He'd need to gain the armor as well. That's important.
Oh, man. Because Jade Behemoth Jade Spirit looks like a much better turn here, and you're not expecting Shadow Word Pain or Shadow Word Death from a Silence Priest.
No. If you're not a fan of yogg-saron, then I bet
You're
you're
a fan of
enjoying this
this.
game. Yeah.
I like a yogg-saron.
I like that too.
It's been long enough that we're removed enough from the Yogg meta of, days past that I like Yogg again.
Just jumps in from time to time, steals a game from you, and then
Yeah.
goes his merry way.
Sometimes it comes down and kills itself immediately. Sometimes
Yeah, whenever I play it,
cool.
it does that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
No Feral Rage, so if this Shadow Visions does successfully pick up Shadowwood Pain, then that's just going to be the game.
Picks up the death,
Missed.
but no pain.
No Shadow Visions either. That's unfortunate.
Circle of Healing can heal back up the Cleric, post an attack through the Jade Behemoth.
Ooh, that's true. Could draw a couple of cards there. Trade Dirty Rat into Jade Behemoth, play Circle, draw 3 cards. Then get Shadowwood Pain and win the game with that? Yeah.
Yeah, that actually is
Or if
16 in deck. You probably run 1 copy, I would think.
if Kranich wants to play it safer, he can make the trade with the Cleric here, then trade Dirty Rat in, and then Circle. Depends how high he thinks his chances are. As you said, it's probably 1 in 16. Maybe 2. Yeah, gonna go this way. I like it.
Very smart.
Can still pick up a second Shadow Visions, I believe, as well. There's that death again. That's a win.
The Inner Fire would have done it as well, off of the Shadow Visions.
Right, yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate.
So there were a couple picks there off of Shadow Visions that would have just ended the game that turn for Kranich.
Well, Lala Song can stay alive now, thanks to the double Feral Rage. He can buy himself a little bit more time. Ooh, does Swipe allow something interesting to happen? It does allow him to deal with both of these big minions, just leaving the Priest of the Feast alive.
Priest of the Feast is not enough to push damage, especially through 2 copies of Feral Rage.
The
That's
problem is-
16 additional armor.
The problem is South Korea still have a lot of other tools. They still have 2 5-drops in their hand, both of which have their effects. It's important that Lala Song does deal with this, but he needs to start picking up cards like Nourish or his other Jade cards immediately. great. Not even going to gain some armor, just completely clearing the board.
You don't have to. There's still nothing that the priest can do to burn you from hand.
One more draw! The Shadow Visions was one more draw away. That last draw last turn would have won the game for Kranich. You could have just got North Cleric from it.
So, Ungoro pack and Lyra cards. That's going to be the remainder of the pressure for Kranich.
That seems like a lot of pressure to me.
It's a good amount.
Primordial Drake, pretty good against Priest. Dollar in the swear jar there, 4 attack, Dragon.
Ah. The bane of priest existence.
Now Malaysia gained 1 health too. Working his way back up, bit by bit. So, do we just go Lyra then?
Turn.
Yeah? Yep. That's pretty much all Kranich has to check. Lyra, yep. Alright, let's go. Not much time to make the decision though, as Lyra turns can take some turns.
Visions for pack.
Yeah, you just take the pack, I think, every time. You get an
That's
extra
awesome.
spell too. You can play it this turn. Your taunt is still protecting Lyra.
I love Shadow Visions for Ungoro pack. Oh my goodness. It's one of the most fun things out of the Journey to Ungoro expansion.
Funnily enough, not an instant pick though for Kranich. He's tempted to go for
he's
Power
contemplating.
Shield.
Circle of
Certainly
Healing.
feeling even.
Because now at least doesn't die to Primordial Drake if you run it in.
But now Primordial Drake will die if it tries to trade into the Tar Creeper.
Exactly.
And even Feral Rage, if that gets rid of the Tar Creeper with the hero power, the Drake still dies against Lyra and doesn't kill it off. So Lyra is 100% safe this turn. Unless Malaysia get Innovate into... I don't even know what else they could get to clear up the Lyra. Innovate Wrath wouldn't do it.
Well, this is the only play.
Alright, Lala Song still at 17 out. Still hanging in
He
there.
has held on this entire time.
But this is where
Down
we
to his
see...
pinkies.
This is where we see the strength of Lyra. It's not like Gadgetzan Auctioneer. If you get consecutively good Lyra turns, you don't just run out of cards.
No.
Lyra goes on forever.
Lyra synergizes with itself after the first spell.
Exactly. I wonder if Free from Amber is tempting, or if you want to play lots of cheap spells instead. Nope.
Free from Amber's so good.
Oh, there's Cthulhu. Look.
Yeah.
It is still...
Two old gods, one game. Or how about a classic legendary?
A 7/7, which is going to turn into an 8/8 and just get even bigger.
Beautiful.
Okay, Malaysia, your turn. Says Kranich.
Eat my 8/8 and my buffed Lyra that's already gotten 2 turns of value.
There you go, there's Gruul.
There's Gruul for any of you that don't know.
At the end of each turn, and that means every turn, at the end of your turn and at the end of your opponent's turn, this thing just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Strictly better than Shade of Naxxramas.
Yeah, if it was just a little bit more expensive.
A little bit.
If it wasn't for the fact that it was so susceptible to hard removal.
Oh, I mean, this guy was... Back when Big Game Hunter was everywhere, you couldn't play this.
No.
And when Dr. Boom was, you know, same stat line, but more upside.
Hey, it had boom bots.
Gruul doesn't have Gruul bots.
Gruul doesn't explode either.
No, he doesn't. Maybe if Gruul's battle cry was kill all Azure Drakes, gain +1/+1, then maybe.
That would have been a strong card back in the day.
That would have been a very strong card. Pretty
What, the
standard.
Gruul Crab?
Gruul crap.
Wrath is still unable to deal with this Lyra, which is just going more and more out of control. Though Kranich isn't overdoing it. He's not doing what I suggested that he might do and go for lots of cheap spells last turn. He decided to just take it bit by bit, just make the most powerful play. Now I just don't see how he loses. Mind Blast, that has to be lethal now, surely. Just grab a Shadow Word Pain from this.
Yeah.
No
or
props.
a Potion of Madness.
Yeah, all that. Actually,
Or
a lot of
Shadow
cards.
Madness.
Yeah.
Or Shadow Word Horror.
Just binding heal. Yep. Okay.
Oh, you could
Oh.
You could have interfired it, but this is
Of course.
Still.
Embrace the shadow means that it took the damage, and that game is
still
over.
Gonna be it.
Kranich managed to pick up the exact lethal there at the end with some Lyra chicanery, and South Korea take the series, make it through to top 8. Somewhere back in the United Kingdom, there is a very happy Raven.
I think he's back in the United Kingdom now. Was in China for quite a while for HCT champ.